1924, my father, who was born in Poland, wanted to get into the United States because he knew that they were going to constrict him into the army, which apparently was not the best thing in the world to be in the Polish army. What would happen at that time is you could get into the United States if you had a sponsor, you were healthy, and you showed that you were not taking from, but typically giving. And so there was a quota. And what happened with my father is the quota, was full when he went try to get into the U.S. At the time, if you were 1 year in Cuba, you could establish residency in Cuba for a year, then you can get into the United States, assuming you had a sponsor. Well, what ended up happening apparently was that went away. So my father ended up in Cuba, shoe manufacturing company. My mother, she was born in Lithuania, in the area that was between Germany, and being of the Jewish religion, they were always having to move because they ended up coming. She was about 15 at the time. Anyway, my father became pretty successful manufacturing shoes, and one of his workers invited him to a dinner, and he went and he met my mother, and they got married. They got married in 1927. Yeah. My brother was born in 1929. 5 years later, my sister was born in 1934. And then 5 years later, I was born. In 1939 was an interesting year. World War II began, with Germany invading Poland, and my favorite movie came out that year, The Wizard of Oz. My sister had a really bad case of asthma, and it was suggested that they traveled to the United States for better medical purposes. So Uncle, my mother's younger brother, was in the United States, and he went to sponsor us and so on. Now, in line with what I said about you had to be medically, in good condition and all that good stuff. So I was told, I'm 4 years old at that time, and I was told that my mother said to my father, if they don't accept my sister, because she has such a bad case of asthma, I'll stay back with my sister, you take the boys. Anyway, my mother passed, my father passed, my sister passed, my brother passed, I failed. What happened was, I'll call him the officer, said to me, come here little boy, or something to that effect. And I didn't move. So he says, he can't come in because he's deaf and dumb. And my father, who had an interpreter, because he didn't speak English, he said to the guy, tell the idiot that my son speaks Spanish. I was 4 years old. So my father put me in a corner and he said, "Ben, a key," and I ran to him and I got in. We moved to New York, Upper Manhattan, an area called Washington Heights. The first apartment that we lived in, there was a living room, French doors, dining room. French doors were closed. The dining room, my brother was here, I was here, and my sister was here. And then we moved to a one-bedroom apartment. My brother and I slept on a pull-out couch until I came to California when I was 18. So I was a teenager during the 50s. And you've probably heard about what a great decade it was. And it really was. All my family said that all you ever did is you go out in the street and play ball. I had a terrific social life. I decided to pick a year in the 50s, and I said, what was the most fun year of my life? It was 1956. That's when I was a senior in high school. We ran the school, me and a lot of my friends. It was terrific. And that's where I learned not to look at any individual other than their character. I figured there was about maybe 20% of the school were Puerto Ricans, 15% were black kids, and you just got along. We'd go to a basketball game, and mostly the black kids were on the team, and if we lost, we beat up the other team. I didn't. Yeah, it was tough for the other team. If they won, they had to get the heck out of there. I graduated when I was 17. My sister got married in 1955. Her husband had a lot of family in Southern California, and they were very, very successful in the clothing business. He had an opportunity to do some work in Southern California, specifically Los Angeles. So they left in 1955, and then my brother ended up going with them. Anyway, my parents said to me, if you want to stay in New York and finish college, we'll stay with you, but if you want to go to Southern California, then we'll go. I decided to come to California, and on June 7th, 1957. And I found LACC, Los Angeles City College, which is a community college, it's a 2-year. So I went to LACC, and then I transferred to UCLA. Yeah, I was in LA last week, and I said the good news is that I am not in LA this week.